Hello and welcome once again to Ignite Your Impact. My name is Jen Rhodes. I am seated next to my husband, Matthew Ray Rhodes.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good.
Excellent. I want to dive in today. I may get a little passionate talking about this, but I like this topic. I think it separates good from great.
Yeah, I love the topic too. It separates mediocrity and excellence is what it does.
I like that better.
Yeah.
I like your description better. I would also say it's the greatest determining factor if you will not only do something, like complete a task, but do something great. So today's title is, Are You Interested or Are You Committed? And we're going to close out with the 3 questions that you have to ask yourself if you want to go to excellence.
Yeah, this topic came to me the other day, and I was in a meeting with my business partner and for our new company, and I did a lot of reflection after that meeting. And I'm going to get back to the details on that reflection shortly, but we wanted to talk about this because it is absolutely played out in our life.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think this will parallel with so many people listening as well. Like once you hear the analysis, the analogy, it parallels so great. And the idea here is you will take this message, reflect, look back at some times in your life, just like we did, and realize that this is played out and it ultimately determined the outcome. Then it will allow you to move forward and really focus to become excellent.
Yeah, I remember maybe 8 years ago, I'd been in corporate America for, 15 years or so. And I had done really well. I'd ascended to the ranks. Things were going really well there. And at that same time, we had owned our fitness centers for around a decade about that time. Mm-hmm. And the fitness centers were absolutely rocking it. Just the corporate world was going great. The fitness centers were rocking it. I mean, in every way. Financially, they were crushing it. And I know we were working hard back then, but it didn't seem like it because things just became easy. We really couldn't go wrong with anything. Things just always seemed to go right once we got about that time period. And during that time, it led us to say, okay, what's next? We can do more. We could open more fitness centers. However, we saw an opening in the market. There were no real yoga studios in Kansas City at that time. You have to remember, this was 8 to 10 years ago. This was when yoga was starting to become a little bit more mainstream. It also started adding in some of the workout elements, so it was attracting a broader audience. And I know anyone who's listened to us have heard us talk about this, but about us opening yoga studios, but we're going to dive into it a little bit differently that really will key in on what we're talking about today. So we decided we were going to go all in on Kansas City. So we bought 8 territories. And I don't remember the exact amount per location.
I do.
Well, these studios were over the top to build out. And
the biggest check I've ever written in my life.
Yeah. But it was 8 studios, $500,000 per location about. So it was about a $4 million investment. Yeah. Plus you go in and you have to sign leases for each location that ties you, for a certain amount of years. So there's another $500,000.
You can't just say you're going to open them.
Yeah.
Like they hold you to okay, sign on the dotted line. But where's your lease?
So those are some rough numbers. It's probably a little more, but that gives you an idea of how big this commitment was. And I was heavily involved in this company getting it up and running. I was fully committed. Remember, Jen said this podcast is titled, Are You Interested or Are You Committed? I was fully committed at that point. So we got 2 of these studios open really quick. And then my commitment changed to just being interested. I didn't know it at the time, but like I said, I'll talk about that in a minute when I reflected back, but I was just interested. I was committed to raising the money. I was committed to building the initial business plan and building those studios out and getting them going. But after that, I backed away. I was no longer committed. I was just somewhat interested, which means that I left Jen now to manage essentially a $5 million business with a huge staff, multiple locations. That's a lot for someone. And on top of that, I was a little burned out from all that effort and that work to get going. So I stepped even further back from the gyms. So Jen had to run those as well on top of this new business venture. Could she do it? Absolutely, she could do it. But the walls started coming up that made it virtually impossible for her to succeed no matter what she did. Others started to see this as a prime market. That's when you started to see, if you're in Kansas City, I mean, probably every city this is happening. That's when you started seeing Yoga 6. You started seeing Core Power. You started seeing Power Life, and then many independents that started opening up as well. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that they became our necessary competition, but they did. But beyond that wall, I'm usually a pretty organizational guy, but I didn't build out the business plan correctly for Jen to have the support that she needed to run this beast without me in there being committed. It's built for 2 committed owners, and now it's left to just 1. I didn't build it out the right way. So she's working obnoxious hours. And when I say obnoxious, almost humanly impossible what she is doing. And as we started to go, I tried to shortcut some stuff. So instead of diving back into that business, because I just wasn't committed to it, I started sucking money out of our gyms to help keep the yoga studios going in a good manner. Now remember, we left these gyms pretty unsupervised so that we could open the studios. So now they don't really have an owner in there. And we pulled some of our best people out of the gyms to help us run these studios, and now we're sucking cash out of them. I took a shortcut instead of diving back in and doing what I should have done. This means everything starts to take a hit. So you fast forward to the end of this story. I know it's a long story, but you fast forward to the end of it. We toughed it out. When the leases were up on those locations, we paid off our loans, and we either closed those locations or we sold those locations. See, I was committed to the idea of having this great big business, but I was only interested in the follow through.
Now, think about your own situation. Can anyone listening look back at a business or a job or a relationship or even just your personal fitness journey and parlay that to the story that Matt just told? I'm sure you can. Like, take the easy one. Think about your fitness. Are you in love with the idea of having a badass body 24/7? Are you fully committed to lifting weights 4 to 5 days a week? Are you fully committed to getting 10K steps no matter what? And then you're interested in eating the way that you need to get that badass body. I would say there's many even probably listening that fall into that category. I would love to tell you that the tactics are easy, but without the proper mindset and guidance, it isn't. So you make up the nutrition by just doing a shitload of cardio. Why did you laugh? Did it sound familiar?
Yeah, it sounds familiar.
Just like Matt said, when you can't rob Peter to pay Paul. You can't make up for an area by taking away from another. You can't win.
Yeah. And I want to go back to that meeting that I opened up with, that I said I was with my business partner. My business partner and I were meeting with 2 other individuals, and they mentioned that they meet a lot of people like us, and when they talk to them and they get to know them, then they deliver a package to them to look at and review to see if they want to purchase it and move on. And a lot of people say, oh, well, I wasn't ready for that. And I knew exactly where these guys were going. And these guys were great guys, but I knew exactly where they were going. So I looked them dead in the eye with full confidence, full conviction, and I said, we aren't just interested. We are committed. And that turned that whole conversation around and that whole relationship, because they quickly realized that we were fully committed and they could work with us. And they knew we were going to go past the starting line. And I reflected after that meeting. I said that I reflected. I look back, a long reflection. I look back over like the last 20 years of my life, and not a quick thing. I just started looking at everything, the relationships, our businesses, and many other things. And I realized every time that I felt like I was committed, but I was just interested in doing the things that needed to be done. It was okay. Most of them, some of them were major failures, but it was okay. But nothing major came out of it. And then I looked at the times where I was fully committed to the entire process, beginning to end, and things went from an idea, a dream, a thought, and then they turned into excellence. And after this reflection, I realized that it really boils down to asking myself a few direct questions anytime I do something. And I really started doing this, but I never put it into a formal thing. And now we have these three questions that we want to share with you, so that it's going to help you determine if you're interested in something or if you're committed. And if you can answer that I am fully committed to these three questions, then let it roll.
I want to interrupt really quickly, and I apologize. I want to throw out one of our original mentors, Mr. Hadachek, Coach Hadachek. Our first MLM got us in the door of the wellness industry.
Yep.
He looked at me at a meeting and said, "Jen, is this a hobby or is this a career?" And so knowing the level of investment and time a hobby versus a career takes, I want you to go ahead with the three questions.
Yeah.
Are you interested, i.e. hobby, or are you committed?
Yep. So the first question, are you willing to do whatever it takes with nothing in return? And what I mean by that, obviously you can expect a return, but if it's a business, are you willing to work 1 year, 2 years, maybe 3 years and not make any money? When I say work, I mean nights and weekends. This is what we did at our gyms because we were fucking committed. Are you willing to do that? This is simply sometimes what it takes.
Are you willing to sit and get your teeth kicked in for 3 years straight and also not see a return on the investment?
Yeah.
Like it's not.
Sometimes that's what it takes.
It's what it takes. It's not glorious. On the back end, it is. Now think about fitness. In fitness, are you willing to trust the process and put in a minimum of 6 to 8 months and not see massive changes? How daunting does that sound? Now, of course, you will see changes. Your body will change. But are you willing to do that? Are you willing to put that out of your mind, that finish line so far out that you just have to trust and execute? And in the beginning, it's essential to weigh your foods. And through time, you will learn what macros mean and how they affect the body and what's in what foods. And that a kind bar is not a healthy choice for breakfast, Matt Rhodes. And how much it weighs, you can do it with your eye. How good am I at eyeballing foods?
When you've done it long enough, you
Done
get
it
good.
long enough. But in the beginning, are you willing to pull out that scale at every meal when your family has loaded up their plates and then they sit there and watch you like, what are you doing?
Yeah, so the first one is, are you willing to do whatever it takes with no return? Second one is are you willing to cut relationships? You heard that right, cut relationships. In order for you to be the new you, you cannot be the old you, which means some of those people can't be in your life anymore. And small examples, it doesn't mean you're just cutting things off, because sometimes you got to do that. But just as an example of, are you willing to cut off relationships? You know, a funny one is I play fantasy football every year with a great group of guys, and I love doing it, but it does take up some time. As I'm starting this new company, I've had to cut that relationship, not like a cut the arm off, just like, hey guys, I can't play this year. And they totally understood it, but I'm committed to this new business, and I had to cut that relationship off so I had the time to put into it. And I love these guys, but
Yeah.
I'm committed to something.
I had that exact experience within the first year of our business. And it was more of a painful process for me because we were 25, 26. We were young and our friends were young and none of us were mature enough to have that conversation. And unfortunately, I lost a friend over it, but I was committed to this vision. And I know that she's rooting for me just as much now as she was mad at me then.
Yeah. So when we say, are you willing to cut relationships, it may mean literally cutting someone off, or it may be putting something on the back burner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Business or fitness, there's always going to be someone that doesn't understand your vision. That's okay. You can leave them with love. You can even hit pause like Matt did with his group of friends. It's not that they hate his guts because he's like, guys, I can't play this year. Like, what friend's going to even do that? And if that's the case, great, get them gone. They're going to be there next year, and if they're not, that's okay. He'll find another fantasy football league to play with or whatever activity he wants to occupy his entire Sunday. If they aren't cheering you on, then you have to move on. What I mean is, if they are giving you shit because you can't go out to late dinners, because you need to get up in the morning to work out, then you have to move on. Now, you also have to be able to discern, are you just giving me shit because you love me and this is what you do?
Yes.
Or are you really offended? I've had to have those conversations. Turns out they were just trying to give me shit to get under my skin. I'm like, cool, don't do that. This means a lot to me. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. And they cheer for me now. But being okay with having those conversations. If you really value this person, maybe you don't cut them off. Maybe you say, hey bro, that fucking hurts. Are you supporting me or not? Because they may or may not have your best interest at heart.
I'm just picturing you saying to one of your girlfriends, hey, bro.
Hey, bro. Hey, bro, Cephas.
The third one, are you committed to the investment? What that means is time, money, and energy. It takes all three. Some people will put the money up and just expect the result and not put the time in.
I hate that.
Others aren't willing to pay the money. And some aren't willing to put the energy in there. I will tell you, by putting money into it, it does save time and energy. If you want to do fitness on your own, let's say you're a realtor and you want to do fitness on your own, it's going to take you a hell of a lot of time and a hell of a lot of energy to figure things out. It's going to take a long, long time. On the flip side, if I'm going to sell my house, there's no way that I'm doing it without our realtor, because there's no way that I can compress time and learn what's taken them decades to learn. Time, money, and energy. Are you willing to commit to the investment? And some of these things that we just said, these three questions, they may seem over the top. But remember, we aren't talking about average. We aren't talking about mediocrity. We are talking about excellence. Are you interested or are you committed?
I want everyone listening to think back to something that they have done in life that is a result that would fit into the definition of excellence. Think about a time you were excellent. Complete perfection. Go back to it. Sit in it for a second and realize you were willing to do what it took for as long as it took without the reward. You were willing to cut relationships that needed to be cut to help you move forward. And you were willing to invest any amount of time, money, or energy. Now look back at something that you tried and didn't work out. And you may be picturing which piece or multiple pieces of those three questions were not present. Here's the beauty of being committed, being versus interested. Being committed makes it easier. That is a fast-track decision-making skill. That doesn't mean you won't have a competitor come along and open right next to you, or have a tough time not picking up donuts at the office every morning. I just work from home, so there aren't donuts. Problem solved. But it doesn't mean there's not going to be resistance and roadblocks along the way. But what it means is that you can answer those three questions with conviction when those tough times come up. And when they do, you realize it's part of the journey. This is the journey that you planned out perfectly, knowing that there will be resistance. Now, I want to challenge each of you listening right now, whether you're at home, listening, at the office, walking your dog, maybe you're driving. I want to challenge you. We are about halfway through August. Oh my God.
I know saying that out loud.
Wow. We are halfway through August. Guys, we have what? There's 4.5 months of the year left. School is starting back up. It's going to get busy. Guess what? It's always busy. And as we start to go into the last 4 months of the year, it is the perfect time to stop being interested in having that body that you have thought about all summer. Every time you step on the boat, every time you go to the neighborhood pool, every time you put those shorts on. It's time to stop making this a hobby. It is the perfect time to be committed. Now, if you're saying, yep, that's me, I'm in. I'm ready to be committed. I'm all in. I want you to shoot me a DM. Hit me up. We can chat, and then we can see if either Matt or I or one of our coaches can help save you that time and energy and just get you as fast as possible to where you so badly want to be.
I love it. Let's wrap.
Is it a hobby or is it a career? I love it. I really liked this topic.
Yeah.
I think we could probably do another one on this. Yeah. I have a couple more tangents.
Are you committed to doing another one?
I'm committed. I will be committed. Guys, I hope you found value in today's episode. If you did, share it with someone that you think will find value. Tag us in your Insta stories. Give us a 5-star review. You know that's the only way we can grow this thing. And as always, we'll talk to you next time, y'all.